Hi guys, Mick Lynch is not just the General Secretary of the RMT trade union, but has been a voice for all workers who have been calling for better paying conditions and some level of job security. What I find interesting is how the media will attempt to grill him when he talks about industrial action, but we have yet to see the CEO of any of the rail operators challenged by journalists over the massive profits they continue to make and the dividend they give to their shareholders. However, there seems to be something very sinister also going on. The Tory government may actually be pressuring companies not to do deals with workers. Have a listen to what Mick had to say about that.
Despite every effort made by our negotiators, it is clear now that the government is directly interfering in our attempts to reach a settlement. The union suspended previous strike action in good faith to allow for intensive negotiations to resolve the dispute. Yet Network Rail has failed to make an improved offer on jobs, pay and conditions for our members during the last 2 weeks of talks. At the same time, the Rail Delivery Group, representing the train operating companies, has also broken a promise to make a meaningful offer on pay and conditions, and even cancelled negotiations that were due to take place yesterday with 1 hour's notice. We also have evidence from all 14 of the train operating companies denying that the Rail Delivery Group has the authority to conduct negotiations on their behalf. Even as the RDG yesterday urged us to come back to the table and develop a deal. We now doubt that either the Rail Delivery Group or the train operators themselves actually have the authority to negotiate a settlement to this dispute, and we have the evidence here with us. The letters that they've written and that their lawyers have written to us. The authority now sits directly with the Secretary of State, Mark Harper, and he seems intent on blocking any deal being developed between the parties. I will be taking this up with him at a meeting that he has arranged with me for this Thursday morning. This latest round of strikes will show how important our members are to the running of the country, and will send a clear message that we want a good deal on job security, pay and conditions for our people. We have been reasonable, but it is impossible to find a negotiated settlement when the dead hand of the government is presiding over and blocking a resolution in these talks.
Okay, just a few things to say about that. Now, first of all, when he talked about pay and condition here, first of all, even before that, he talked about how the unions had suspended strike action in order to allow talks to continue, and that took place a few months ago. Now, after that, there is, of course, the pay and conditions. Now, one of the rail operators, and Mick mentioned this before, was offering a pay rise of 2%. 2% in 2023 and 2% in 2024. Now, if inflation is running at 10%, over 10% this year, and probably about 7 or 8% next year, then 2% obviously is a pay cut. Now, to the bigger point here, what the hell is the government doing? And it seems that there was negotiations due to take place, and at the last minute, the employer, the rail operator, cancelled the meeting, and Mick said the only person who would be able to do that, or the only reason that would happen, is if the government minister got involved. Now, the government ministers have been asked to get involved to negotiate, to help bring both sides together. But why would the Tories be trying to block an agreement? And I've said this before. We saw it back in the summer when Grant Shapps was Transport Secretary. And he was talking about pushing through legislation that would remove the ability of these railway workers to go on strike. Or in a sense, they could go on strike, but if they did, they would lose their jobs. And they would be replaced by agency staff. Now, of course, at the time it was presented as, how dare these people bring the country to a halt? We need to have an alternative. If they go on strike, we need these trains running. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in emergency staff. And of course, they would be agency staff with less pay and worse conditions. And they would replace the workers. Now, I believe what's happening here is the government are trying to block any agreement between the trade unions and the rail operators, because they want to push ahead with this deregulation. And of course, it's not going to be restricted to the rail networks. This is going to be applied everywhere. Workers go on strike, lay them off, and replace them with agency staff. Agency staff who will be paid maybe half or even less than half the rate of the workers. And if they're agency staff, they're not going to complain because they have no one protecting them. And if they do complain, they can be replaced the next day. This is the future the Tories want. This is the future the Brexiteers want. A completely deregulated economy. And the trade unions probably understand this, and they're trying to get whatever protections they can at the moment. Because if something is agreed between the rail operators and the trade unions today, it's set in stone. It has to be renegotiated later. It's no point the government coming in and trying to change things. If something has been agreed, it is set. And of course, what do the government want to do? They want to stop agreements taking place in order to take advantage of this legislation. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.